I moved to this small town in New Appalachia about a week ago. I was eager to start fresh after feeling stuck in my old corporate job for years. I rented a cozy 2-bedroom house. The porch was worn, and the floorboards creaked under my weight. It felt charming, but something about it felt strange. On my second night, I heard a faint tapping sound from the attic. At first, I thought it was just the old pipes settling. It was rhythmic enough to keep me awake, but I brushed it off. Maybe my mind was playing tricks on me. As the days passed, I started seeing things out of the corner of my eye. Shadows flickered and disappeared when I turned my head. The temperature would drop suddenly, even with the heat running. That tapping turned into scratching, and it was getting louder. I wasn't sure what to think at that point. I talked to my neighbors, trying to get information about the house, but they became evasive, changing the subject quickly, like they knew something they weren't telling me. My heart raced. I was getting tangled in something I didn't understand. Then one night it happened again. I was sitting on the couch trying to read a book. The scratching intensified. It felt sharp and frantic, like something was desperate to get out. My skin prickled. I wanted to ignore it, but the noise was pulling me in. I stood up and walked toward the staircase. My heart pounded in my chest. I kept telling myself to turn back. But that scratching continued, almost like it was calling to me. I took a deep breath and stepped onto the first stair. The wood creaked loudly. I hesitated, gripping the railing. I felt stupid. Maybe I should just go back to my book, I thought. Still, I was curious. I took another step and then I saw a shadow dart past the attic door. I froze. Was something up there? I thought. Cold sweat formed on my brow. I called out, hoping for a response. Hello? My voice sounded small in the silence. Then the scratching stopped. The silence felt heavy. Maybe I was overreacting. But right then a loud thud came from the attic. It shook the walls. I gasped and pressed myself against the wall. My breath quickened, as if something was watching me. Then I heard a whisper, soft but clear. It's your turn. I turned to run, but my feet felt frozen. I needed to get out, but all I could do was stand there, terrified. I felt shivers down my spine. All I wanted was to escape. But I couldn't move. Then the door creaked open, and a dark figure loomed in the entrance. The figure in the doorway was a silhouette against the dim hallway light. I squinted, trying to make sense of it. It didn't look like a person. No defining features. Just darkness that seemed to pulse and shift. My heart raced as I slowly backed away. Who are you? I finally managed to whisper, but the words came out shaky. I wished I could scream, but fear clutched at my throat. The figure remained still, like it was studying me. Then it stepped forward, and a chill swept through the room. I was pinned to the spot, paralyzed by terror. I suddenly remembered the whispers. It's your turn. The words echoed in my mind, repeating like an ominous chant. Please just leave me alone. I begged, my voice barely above a murmur. The shadow stopped. I could see a slight shape or outline, but nothing concrete. Just unsettling darkness. That's when the scratching resumed. Spurred by the sudden noise, I turned my head to the attic door. It was wide open now, a gaping mouth that invited chaos. My instinct screamed for me to turn and run, but I didn't. I felt drawn to it, to find out what was behind that door. A hushed voice echoed from above. It was raspy and sounded distorted. They'll come for you. My eyes darted back to the figure, but it remained silent. Whatever it was waiting for me to make a decision. I summoned every ounce of courage I had and squeezed my eyes shut. I couldn't let fear win. I opened them again and took a step toward the staircase. My breath came in short gasps, but the desire to know outweighed my fear. As I made my way up the stairs, the air turned thick and suffocating. Each step creaked in protest, and I paused for a moment, listening to the unsettling quiet. But then, a soft giggle echoed from the attic. It was childlike, innocent, but laced with something sinister. I froze. Is someone up there? I called out, my voice quaking. But there was no response, just that giggle repeating like a taunt. Against my better judgment, I stepped onto the landing. The attic door loomed ahead, slightly ajar. I pushed it open and a rush of icy air brushed against my skin. The attic was dim, illuminated only by a sliver of moonlight piercing through a crack in the roof. I stepped inside, trembling. My eyes scanned for anything unusual. Dust particles danced in the air and everything felt impossibly still. That's when I spotted something on the floor. It was a small, worn-out doll, its eyes staring blankly at me. I crouched to pick it up and something clinked against the floor. I turned, and there it was. An old key. It glimmered in the moonlight, and a rush of dread surged through me. What did it unlock? Before I could think further, an unearthly scream filled the attic, echoing off the walls. My heart stopped. I dropped the doll and key, turned, and bolted for the stairs. Something was very, very wrong in this house, and I needed to escape. But as I reached the landing, the figure stood in front of me, blocking the way. "You can't leave," it said in a low voice that sent chills down my spine. The laughter from the attic devolved into cries, overlapping and growing louder. I backed away slowly, eyes wide with panic. I found myself wishing desperately for the mundane comfort of my old corporate job. And then, everything went dark. I jolted awake, heart pounding. The darkness pressed in around me, thick and suffocating. I blinked, trying to make sense of my surroundings, but I couldn't see anything. Had I really been in the attic? Slowly, a shape emerged. The figure loomed just beyond my reach, its essence blurry, like smoke curling in the air. I scrambled to my feet, pulse racing again. Where had it gone? I felt a knot of fear tightening in my stomach. I stumbled backward, desperate to put more distance between me and whatever that thing was. My back hit the cold wall, sending a tremor through my body. Just as I began to breathe again, I heard that laugh. It was louder now, echoing through the room, rising and falling like a sick melody. "Why are you doing this?" I shouted, my voice strained and shaky. The laughter stopped abruptly, replaced by silence that felt like a living entity, wrapping around me. Then another voice, soft and hollow, broke through the quiet. "You're one of us now." The words sent chills racing down my spine. My skin prickled with panic. What did that even mean? I remembered the doll, the old key, and the scream that reverberated in the attic. My mind swirled with questions. I needed to find a way out, but my options seemed limited. I'd have to confront whatever was haunting me. With determination, I stepped forward, searching for the attic door. My hand brushed against something cold and metallic. The key. I felt an electric jolt of hope. Had it been a clue or a way to escape? But then I heard the scratching again. It came from the attic, frantic and furious. I had to choose. I could stay and risk whatever lurked in the dark, or climb back up and face my fears head on. I took a deep breath, revealing a sliver of courage amid my dread. Gripping the key tightly, I decided. I had to know the truth. I would not let this darkness swallow me. I turned toward the stairs and made my way back up. As I reached the attic door, I hesitated one last time. Was I really ready for what I might find? The echoes of laughter picked up once more, and I felt a surge of anger wash over me. I pushed the door open, the creaking sound cutting through the oppressive silence. What met my eyes was not what I expected. The attic was transformed. It looked brighter, almost alive, adorned with chattering shadows that danced along the walls. But they weren't joyful. They were angry, swirling around the remains of the doll and what looked like a worn-out journal. Pages ruffled by an unseen wind. I stepped closer, drawn to the journal. As I reached down, the shadows seemed to hesitate, pulling back slightly. With shaking hands, I opened it. The faded handwriting revealed a history tied to this house, to the whispers and the figure stalking me. And just as the truth began to weave itself in my mind, something heavy crashed behind me, slamming the attic door shut. The shadows surged forward, and I realized the figure wasn't going to let me escape that easily. I was trapped. The shadows lunged at me, their shapes twisting and writhing, hungry for something I couldn't quite comprehend. I stumbled backward, clutching the journal to my chest. I felt its weight, as if it was an anchor pulling me down into the chaos around me. "Get away!" I shouted, hoping my voice could pierce through the veil of fear. But the shadows didn't respond. They just danced closer, their whispers swirling like a cacophony of secrets begging to be heard. In the dim light, I could see the doll lying on the floor, its porcelain face cracked and stained, a remnant of whatever had once filled this space with innocent laughter. I wondered what kind of darkness had taken root here. I wanted to look away, but my gaze was drawn back to the journal. Something deep within the pages felt urgent, like a warning begging to be understood. I flipped through them quickly, trying to find anything that could help me. As the pages turned, snippets of stories began to emerge. Each entry painted a chilling portrait of previous inhabitants, how they replied to the house's demands. They had all become part of its history, woven into its fabric like the shadows swirling around me. I could feel their anguish, their regrets, and the inevitable fate that awaited them. Suddenly, one passage caught my eye. It was a name, Eliza. Something about it sent a shiver racing down my spine. This wasn't just a record of events, it was a warning. Before I could sift through the rest of the entries, I felt a rush of cold air sweep past me as if the attic itself was exhaling. The shadows paused. Then, just as swiftly, they surged again, attempting to wrap around my ankles. I twisted and leaped away, my heart pounding in my ears. "Why are you doing this?" I screamed, desperation tinging my voice. I had to know what Eliza had to do with all of this. At that moment, a figure took shape in the corner of the attic, moving slowly, its features obscured by the shadows. Panic surged through me, and I stumbled back, nearly losing my footing. The laughter returned, clear and cold, echoing inside my mind. The figure stepped forward, its eyes glinting with a strange mix of anger and sorrow. "You shouldn't have come here," my breath hitched. "Who are you?" The shadows blinked, pulling back as the figure approached. "I'm Eliza. But now..." It paused, tilting its head in a way that made my skin crawl. "Now, you are part of this story." As those words hung in the air, I felt an invisible pull, as if the house was clenching its fist around me. The journal slipped from my grasp, fluttering to the ground. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but there was nowhere left to go. The laughter turned maniacal, echoing in a cycle of delight. I was trapped in a web of past horrors, with the truth just out of reach. I could feel the darkness closing in, and in that terrifying moment, I knew I had to choose. Before I could think, I leaped for the door behind me, hoping for one last chance at escape. But then I heard the soft laughter again, closer this time. And I wasn't alone. I burst through the door, the wooden frame creaking as I shoved against it. I didn't look back. I had to get away from Eliza and whatever dark purpose she had for me. The air outside the attic felt like a reprieve, but the laughter still echoed in my mind, curling around my thoughts like smoke. Down the narrow, dimly lit hallway I sprinted, my footsteps reverberating against the walls. I could hear the shadows swirling behind me, as if they were in pursuit. I didn't dare stop to catch my breath. I just wanted to escape. I stumbled into a small room, its walls lined with rusted metal shelves. The air was musty, thick with the scent of decay. The light from a single bulb hanging from the ceiling flickered and sent eerie shadows dancing across the surfaces. I scanned the room, looking for something, anything, that could help me make sense of what was happening. That's when I saw it. A mirror, tarnished and framed in ornate silver, reflecting a distorted version of the room. My heart skipped. I stepped closer, compelled by some unknown force, and recoiled at the sight. My image was there, but behind me in the reflection stood Eliza, her eyes wide and unblinking. Panic surged. I spun around, but she wasn't there. The room was empty. I felt like I was losing my mind. Was she a figment of my imagination? Or was there something more real lurking in the shadows? I turned back to the mirror. My breathing quickened. The reflection remained unchanged. Just me, the room, and Eliza, trapped in that fleeting moment. I reached out, brushing my fingertips against the glass, trembling. The surface felt cold, almost alive. Then the laughter erupted again, louder this time, ringing in my ears. The very air thickened around me. I turned, seeking a way out, but a figure rushed past the doorway, blocking my path. "Don't go in there!" they shouted. It was a woman, her face pale and drawn. Her clothes were tattered and her eyes were filled with a wild fear that struck me deep. I took a step back, startled. "Who are you?" I gasped. "I'm just like you," she cried. "I tried to leave, but then she took someone from me." "Who? Eliza?" I felt a chill grip my spine. "Yes, she feeds on grief and regret. She won't let you go." "It's just stories," I objected, clutching the journal. "I found it upstairs." "No!" She lunged, her desperation raw. "That journal is her diary. It holds the souls of those trapped here. Every word is a piece of their story, and she uses it to keep them bound." Her words sank into me and the weight of their truth crashed down. I was in a trap just like the others. I needed answers. "What do I do?" "Burn the journal," she urged. "It's the only way to break the spell. You have to act fast before she comes back. Eliza doesn't wait long." My heart raced at her suggestion, but before I could respond, a loud bang reverberated through the house. The lights flickered again, plunging us into darkness. I looked at the woman, panic mirrored in her eyes. Whatever shadows were closing in would be here soon. "Do you want to escape?" she asked urgently. "Yes." "Then we need to make a choice," she pressed, glancing at the door we came through. "You either face her, or you destroy the journal." As we stood there, the laughter rose and the shadows thickened around us. I knew we were running out of time. I had to decide. I stood frozen between the two options, my mind racing. The fear in the woman's eyes mirrored my own. I weighed my choices, face the darkness beyond the door or try to destroy the journal. The laughter grew louder, wrapping around me like a cold wind. "Think fast," she urged, glancing anxiously toward the doorway. "If she finds us—" I had to act. I grabbed the journal from my side and clutched it tightly. "We can't just burn it. What if it doesn't work?" "It'll work," she insisted, her hands shaking. "It has to. Just let go of the fear." My heart pounded as I thought about the people Eliza had taken. I didn't want to be another ghost in her twisted game. I needed to trust the woman. She was the only one who had helped me make sense of any of this. I took a deep breath, ready to step toward the old, heavy iron stove against the wall. Before I could move, a loud crash echoed from the hallway, causing dust and debris to rain down. The woman grabbed my arm, her grip iron tight. "We can't wait any longer." With a quick nod, I ran to the stove, the metallic smell of rust mixing with my rising panic. I fumbled with the few old logs stacked beside it. They felt damp and crumbly, but I piled them on anyway. I halted just a moment to catch her eye. "Now what?" "Find something to ignite it," she said, scanning the room. My heart raced as I rifled through the cluttered shelves, throwing aside forgotten tools and broken glass. All around me, the shadows writhed in the corners, the laughter echoing in a cruel symphony. Then, I saw it. A crumpled bag labeled fire starters. It was scuffed and old, but it was exactly what we needed. I tore it open, a few orange packets spilling out. I hurried back to where I had stacked the logs and ripped one open, spreading the contents over the wood. "I've got it," I called to the woman. I could see the hope blooming in her eyes before the light flickered once more, dimming to near blackness. "Light it now," she urged. But before I could do anything, the air shifted. A cold breeze swept through the room, snuffing out the light bulb overhead, plunging us into darkness. The laughter was different now, sharper, more insistent. "Eliza's here," the woman shouted. "Hurry!" Fumbling for a match, I cursed the trembling in my hands. Just as I struck it, a sliver of light flickered to life. I brought the flame to the packed logs. It caught quickly. Flames danced to life, illuminating the ragged edges of the room. But then, the shadows surged forth. They twisted and writhed, forming into a figure cloaked in darkness. "Eliza," I breathed. The flame flickered as I turned to face her. She was behind the woman, eyes gleaming with a hungry malice. "Do you think you can escape?" Eliza's voice slithered through the air. "Every attempt to flee only strengthens my hold." I had only a moment. The flame grew stronger, but Eliza's laughter echoed through the room, creeping into my thoughts. "Don't listen to her," the woman cried, her eyes wide with fear. "You can stop her." But I could feel a pull growing in my chest, a dark whisper tempting me to surrender. The heat from the fire warmed my skin, but my spirit felt cold. I had to decide, keep fighting, or give in to the overwhelming terror. And then I remembered those lost souls, trapped by Eliza. I knew what I had to do. "Get away from her," I shouted, bracing myself. "This ends now." With a surge of will, I pushed forward. The flames roared in response, illuminating the darkness just as Eliza lunged for me. The flames erupted around me, casting wild shadows that danced against the walls. I felt a rush of adrenaline, mingled with fear. Eliza lunged, her darkness swirling like smoke. I held my ground, the flickering fire fueling my determination. "Stay close to me," I yelled at the woman. She moved to my side, her eyes darting wildly. Eliza's laughter bounced off the walls, a metallic sound that grated at my nerves. "You think fire can protect you? I thrive in this darkness." I tightened my grip on the journal, the weight of it grounding me. I could practically hear the whispers of the trapped souls within its pages. As if sensing my thoughts, Eliza's dark shape shifted, closing in. "Give me the journal," she hissed, extending an ethereal hand. "It belongs to me now. You're just another pawn." "Never," I shouted. In that moment, a flare of heat surged through me. The flames blazed higher, as if fueled by my defiance. I focused on the fire's warmth, channeling it into my voice. "You can't have it." Suddenly, the shadows recoiled. It was as if the flames had burnt through the illusion of power she held over the room. Eliza's expression flickered, anger mingling with surprise. "Foolish girl," she screeched, and then she lunged again, but this time I was ready. I thrust the journal forward. "This ends here." The flames reacted, roaring in protest but also in a bid for liberation. I felt a rush, something deep inside me awakening. My voice rose above the chatter and chaos. "I won't let you take anyone else." The flames blazed brighter, sending a shockwave of heat that turned Eliza's shadows back. She staggered, a snarl playing on her lips. It was hard to believe I was standing firm against something so malevolent. But all at once, a chill crept over the fire. The laughter dimmed and I caught a glimpse of something, another figure lingering just outside the flames. "Help me," it whispered, a voice barely audible, soaked in desperation. I turned, squinting through the blaze. There was a woman partially formed in the firelight, her face twisted in pain. I recognized her, the first missing person, the one whose photo had haunted my dreams. Without thinking, I called out to her. "I can save you! You're not trapped anymore!" Eliza's roar filled the air, a furious gust that wrapped around me. "You're meddling in forces far beyond your understanding." But before she could retaliate, I focused again. The journal pulsed against my chest, urging me forward. "You don't control them. You won't control me." As I took a step closer to the flames, the inferno erupted outward, a barrier against Eliza. The trapped woman stepped further into the light, pulling away from her shadowy grasp. But Eliza wasn't finished. "You think you can save them? You'll only replace them." I hesitated, doubt creeping in again. Would I fail? Was saving one soul worth the risk of losing my own? Just then, the journal burst open in my hands, pages fluttering wildly. A surge of energy swept through me. The flickering words seemed to rise, pulsing bright with magic. And that's when I saw it. A diagram, an incantation meant to sever Eliza's hold. "Together," I shouted, holding the journal high. "We can end this." But as Eliza's laughter grew manic, I realized I wasn't the only one ready to fight. The other trapped souls began to take form, lining up beside me, ready to face her darkness. With resolve, I turned to face Eliza, bound to reclaim the souls she had taken. That was when everything shifted again. A sudden darkness enveloped us. "Who's next?" Eliza snarled. In that moment, the world spun away into chaos, and I knew that somehow, the fight was far from over. The darkness swallowed the flames, suffocating the heat like a heavy blanket. I blinked, trying to adjust to the sudden loss of light. The whispers of the trapped souls faded into ghostly murmurs, leaving only an eerie stillness that rang in my ears. "Eliza," I shouted, my voice barely cutting through the thick air. My heart raced and I felt the journal slip slightly in my grip, its pages fluttering emptily. But the darkness didn't respond. Instead, a low rumble echoed from every direction like thunder rolling in from a distance. Panic surged inside me, gnawing at my resolve. Had I lost my connection to the flames? Had the journal failed me? Suddenly something brushed against my arm, a cold, searching presence. I flinched. "Stay away," I cried, instinctively taking a step back. The weight of fear clung to me, urging me to flee, but I couldn't abandon the souls that depended on me. "Eliza," I called again, my voice trembling. "What have you done?" A chilling laugh cut through the silence, echoing like nails scraping against metal. "Did you think you could fight me, child? You've only made things worse," she taunted. The darkness coiled tighter, and for a moment I could feel her breath icy and mocking on my neck. Just as I started to fall apart, a flicker of light emerged beside me. One of the trapped souls materialized, a teenage girl with wide, pleading eyes. "Please, help us," she whispered, her form flickering like a dying candle. I reached out, desperation igniting within me. "I will. I promise." I felt the edges of my fear burning away, replaced with a fierce determination. If we combine our strength— "But we're lost," the girl cried. "Eliza." I cut her off, shaking my head. "No, I won't allow that. We can still fight." Before I could overthink it, I forced myself to concentrate. The journal in my hand pulsed again, the warmth urging me forward. I began chanting the incantation I had seen earlier, hoping it would work even in this unimaginable darkness. "We are not alone. We are not forgotten." The air shimmered around me, a rush of energy rising with each word. The shadows quivered, momentarily pushed back as if the incantation were a crack of light in an unyielding storm. Then, to my shock, the darkness recoiled. It felt like I had struck a blow against it for the first time. The girl's face brightened and she stepped closer. I could feel the other souls gathering behind me, lined up to battle against their captor. With each word I spoke, hope surged within me. I wasn't just reciting the incantation. I was anchoring them, solidifying their presence. "We gather strength together. Eliza, your grasp ends now." But even as I spoke, the ground trembled beneath us. Eliza's voice, now closer and filled with fury, snarled, "They are mine! You will pay for your rebellion." The light I created flickered. I felt a rush of dread. I couldn't keep it up against her power alone. Just as I was about to falter, a new figure surged into view, piercing through the shadows. It was another soul, a man with a determined gaze. "There's another way," he said, joining the chant. "We can break her hold if we unite our voices." I felt a spark ignite in the depths of my chest. Together we could amplify our efforts. But just as I grasped that thought, the darkness wrapped around us tighter, threatening to extinguish the fragile light we had begun to create. I steeled myself, ready to press forward, but a horrifying realization gripped me. What will happen if we fail? What if we don't escape this? Then, as if answering my fears, a chilling wind swept through the space and the shadows began to swirl violently. The air thickened with a smell of burnt earth, and I realized Eliza was no longer playing. She was ready to unleash her full power. "No, not now!" I shouted, scrambling to remain anchored. "We're not finished." Just then, a flicker in the corner of my vision distracted me. There was something shimmering by the journal, something I hadn't noticed before. It drew me in, that glint of light promising answers, or maybe more confusion. That's when fear gripped my heart, as I understood the dark truth. I had unearthed something Eliza wanted to keep hidden, And whatever it was, it could change everything. Just as my mind raced to comprehend the implications of what I'd found, the darkness thickened around us. I leaned closer, focusing on the shimmer that beckoned like a beacon of hope amidst despair. I reached down, grasping the journal tightly with one hand while the other brushed against the glowing object. My fingers tingled as I made contact, and I felt a rush of warmth seep into my skin. It was a locket, small and ornate, shimmering like silver under the weight of darkness. I recognized it from the stories I'd read. The locket belonged to Eliza. Panic surged through me. How could it be here? Why was it buried with the souls? "Eliza, your power is tied to this," I shouted, hoping to provoke her, to force any kind of reaction. The air around me suddenly crackled with energy. The whispers of the imprisoned souls howled, their cries mingling with the winds of Eliza's fury. The girl's face paled. "That could unleash her completely. You need to let it go," she pleaded, but I shook my head. "No. If this is her weakness, we can use it." My grip tightened around the locket. I had to believe this was the key to turning the tide. A blinding light erupted from the locket, shooting through the darkness like a meteor. I felt the immediate grip of Eliza's rage, the shadows lashing out, but I pressed forward, repeating the incantation that had felt so solid moments ago. "We are not lost. We will not surrender." Just then, the locket's light surged higher, and I could see the faces of the trapped souls in the swirling shadows, their eyes locked on me, hoping for salvation. The power of the incantation swelled, combining with the magic of the locket, and the darkness flickered around us like a strobe light. "Eliza," I shouted again, but this time it felt different. My voice was filled with an authority I hadn't known I possessed. "You're afraid. You can't hold us anymore." A horrid growl echoed around me, vibrating through my chest. Suddenly the darkness clawed back, angry and desperate to consume the light. The air tasted metallic, thick with the threat of what was to come. I could sense her panic rising. She was losing control. The locket pulsed violently in my hand, channeling the combined strength of the souls in this echoing void. I glanced at the girl beside me. "We need to unite our voices. Together," she echoed, her determination flaring to life. The man who had joined us added his voice, and soon the air filled with a chorus empowering our chant. "Eliza, you are not our keeper." With every word, the walls of darkness buckled as if we were hitting at its very core. But just when I thought we might break free, an intense silence dropped, suffocating us. The shadows twisted into jagged fingers, reaching, grasping. I felt the chill seep into my bones. "Foolish children," Eliza screamed, sounding more fragmented than before. "You think you've won? This is only the beginning." My heart lurched as the shadows swirled furiously, suddenly forming a swirling vortex, and I realized we had angered her beyond measure. "No," I shouted, my voice drowning out the fear. "We will remember." The darkness roared and compressed tight around us. I could almost feel myself slipping away, but I dug deep, holding the locket while thrusting the light forward. "Fight! Don't let go!" But the last words I spoke barely reached the souls swirling around us. The shadows buried us, and I braced for an overwhelming wave. I had to believe we could survive. We had to. Just as the weight of shadows closed in, everything went black, and in that terrifying moment I realized it was possible. Something deep within me whispered that this could end. But at what cost? I woke up gasping, my heart racing wildly in my chest. The attic was gone, and I found myself sprawled on the floor of my living room, sunlight spilling through the dusty windows. The air felt lighter, almost peaceful, but something hidden beneath my skin itched with uncertainty. Had it all been a nightmare? Or was I awake now, free from the darkness? The journal lay in front of me, pages crumpled and stained but intact. I could almost feel the weight of forgotten souls within it, their hopes and fears suspended in the worn paper. As I hesitantly reached for it, I noticed a faint shimmer at the corner of my vision, an indentation where the locket had been. It was gone as if it had never existed. leaving behind only whispers of what had transpired. The room felt hollow, that unmistakable void lingering in the air. I held the journal tightly, unsure if I should open it again. Whatever Eliza had been, whatever hold she had on this house, evaporated like mist in the morning sun. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something remained, an echo of her laughter, a brush of shadow flitting past my memory. I stood up slowly, my legs trembling. With every step toward the door, doubts clouded my mind. What had really happened? Had I truly fought Eliza, or had I finally succumbed to my fears? I stepped outside into the gentle warmth of the day, the chatter of everyday life buzzing around me as if nothing had changed. As I walked through the streets, a sense of normalcy washed over me. My neighbors waved, oblivious to the horror I had faced just days prior. No one suspected that I had uncovered the stories buried beneath the floorboards, or that I had been a part of something far darker than my cozy little house. But beneath the surface, uncertainty gnawed at me. I felt lighter, yet there were whispers of fear lodged in the back of my mind. I had escaped, but at what cost? The question loomed large. Had Eliza been defeated, or had I only managed to stave off her power for a little while longer? Would she return? That evening I found myself drawn back to the attic door. I hesitated, my heart racing at the memory of the darkness waiting for me beyond, but a pull urged me on. Pushing the door open, I revealed a stillness that felt both familiar and foreign. The air inside was stagnant, yet devoid of the oppressive energy it once held. It was here I realized I didn't just want answers. I needed to confront the remnants of what I'd faced. Dust danced in the fading light as I stepped forward, the journal cradled in my arms. I flipped through the pages, scanning for something, anything, that would indicate what had happened to Eliza and the souls she had taken. The ink seemed alive, shifting as if it were telling a different story. It no longer held her command. It whispered secrets of those she had ensnared long before me, their tales tangled in tragedy. I felt a strange sense of kinship with them, and for a moment I wondered if they were still watching, still wishing for release. I finally closed the journal, feeling its weight shift beneath my palms. I had escaped, yes, but the question still lurked. Was I part of their story now, or had I inadvertently become a new chapter in Eliza's tale? I wanted to believe I had severed the recurrent connection, that I was free. But shadows had a way of lingering even in the brightest light. With a new resolve, I stepped back from the attic door, taking one last glance at the old space, the echoes of the past and future mingling in the air around me. I turned to leave, carrying the journal, a reminder, a burden, maybe both, still unsure of whether I had truly conquered the darkness, or if it had merely retreated, waiting for another opportunity to rise. As I exited the house, I caught a faint whisper on the wind. "It's your turn," it breathed, the haunting resonance wrapping around me like a familiar blanket. I didn't look back. I moved forward, my heart pounding with questions unanswered. But one thing was certain. My life had changed irrevocably, and the scars of that darkness would remain. I just had to learn how to live with them.